The metro station was busy, filled with gray-suited figures moving about their day. Lieutenant Parker Barnes stepped off the train with his partner Donovan. They hurried through the crowd, pushing past people, and exited onto the bustling streets. As they stepped outside, a massive holographic head appeared above, warning everyone about a recent murder. Barnes noticed something strange. The world around him seemed to glitch, little distortions flickering in and out. His sharp eyes caught sight of a smiley face on the side of a Japanese restaurant. He knew that had to be a clue. Without hesitation, he and Donovan entered the restaurant. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. They spotted a shadowy figure. Sid, 6.7. Barnes didn't wait. He immediately opened fire. Sid returned the attack, sending chaos through the restaurant. In the middle of the fight, Sid managed to grab Donovan and drag him away. Barnes fought hard but was ambushed and shot in the arm. Pain surged through him as Sid smirked. "I'm just playing with you," Sid teased. Sid used a sushi chef as a shield, but Barnes didn't hesitate. He fired, hitting the chef to get a clear shot at Sid. However, it was too late. Donovan was in an ice tray behind the bar, his face crackling with electricity. Barnes lunged forward, but Sid grabbed him by the throat. The villain stuck his finger into Barnes's wound, causing unbearable pain. Then something terrifying happened. Barnes shut down and vanished. Sid grinned. "I wasn't done yet," he sneered. Suddenly, the entire world faded. The simulation room came back into focus. Sirens blared and a warning flashed. Neural simulation overload. The operators rushed to pull Barnes and Donovan out of the VR system, but it was too late. Donovan went into shock and died. Elizabeth Dean, the police commander, was furious. "What happened to the failsafe program?" she demanded. The lead developer, Daryl, was confused. "Someone must have tampered with the software," he admitted. Dean turned to Wallace, a top official. "Virtual reality was supposed to be a safe training ground for enforcement officers. Instead, we're using convicts as test subjects, and it's killing them. Shut it down." Barnes, a former cop, had agreed to participate in the VR trials in exchange for reducing his prison sentence. He angrily confronted Billy, the police chief. "Sid cheated. His weapon log didn't even list electrocution." Billy frowned. "And why did you shoot the chef?" "Because he wasn't real," Barnes argued. "You were supposed to treat everything as real," Billy warned. "Pull yourself together or you're going straight back to prison." Barnes was escorted back to his cell. As he passed through the prison halls, inmates jeered at him. One particularly aggressive prisoner with white power tattooed on his arm stepped in front of him. "You got Donovan killed!" he shouted, pulling out a knife. A fight broke out. Barnes, despite his injury, managed to take him down before the guards intervened. Meanwhile, back in the simulation room, Daryl confronted Sid. "I know you increased the sensitivity readings. That's what killed Donovan. You're being shut down." Sid laughed. "I can't change who I am. Killing for real. It's exhilarating." Before Daryl could react, Sid leaned in, whispering something to a mysterious figure named Zero. Dr. Carter, a psychologist, visited Barnes. "Billy asked me to evaluate you," she explained. Barnes was wary. "Why were you at the simulation yesterday?" "I was researching for a book," she replied. He smirked. "I knew to enter the Japanese restaurant because of the smiley face. Programmers always leave clues." Carter changed the subject. "Let's talk about the man who killed your family. If we can prove you were provoked, maybe we can help you." Meanwhile, a technician named Clyde was enjoying a VR simulation of a woman named Sheila. Daryl interrupted. "You know the simulation collects data on you, right?" Clyde shrugged. "So?" Daryl sighed. "I know you've been trying to incubate a nanotech android. Wallace thinks this software could help." Clyde agreed to try, but things took a dark turn when Daryl made a deadly mistake. He swapped Sheila's software module with Sid's. Later, Clyde demonstrated his nanobot's powers by cutting a snake in half. The creature regenerated using glass particles. "Impressive, huh?" Clyde grinned. Daryl handed him the module. Clyde placed it into a jar of nanobots. Soon, a humanoid figure emerged, morphing into Sid. The moment Sid gained his new body, he wasted no time. He killed Clyde on the spot. He grinned at his own power, cutting off his own finger and watching it regenerate. "I'm unstoppable," he whispered. The police had no choice but to turn to Barnes. Dean and Wallace offered him a full pardon if he captured Sid. To ensure compliance, they implanted a microlocator in him. Carter insisted on accompanying him, despite Barnes's objections. Their first stop was a crime scene. Sid had already begun his rampage. At Daryl's house, they discovered his research. Sid was built using 200 different mass murderers' genetic codes. One of them was Matthew Grimes, the very man who had killed Barnes's family. That night, Carter called Billy. Barnes's family wasn't just killed, it was a distraction to stop him from solving a case. Meanwhile, Sid was at a nightclub. He shot an android bartender and took hostages. As the terrified crowd screamed, he forced a girl to record their cries. Barnes and Carter heard about the hostage situation on the radio. Rushing to the scene, they hit traffic. Barnes didn't wait. He abandoned the car and ran. Inside, Sid had composed a symphony of screams. The police entered, but he shot them all down, reveling in the chaos. But then, Barnes arrived. Without hesitation, Barnes shot him in the back. Sid groaned, "You're making me lose too much of myself." Sid tried to escape in a police car, but Barnes and Carter gave chase. Sid, ever the showman, ate broken glass to heal himself. Over the radio, he taunted Barnes, "You and I are more alike than you think." Finally, Sid crashed the car. Carter handed Barnes a shotgun. The only way to stop him is to destroy his software module. Barnes fired, but Sid was quick. He escaped over the edge of the bridge. Back at headquarters, Wallace told Dean, "We should capture Sid, not destroy him." But Barnes knew better. He wasn't just chasing a criminal. He was hunting a monster. Barnes believed that Grimes was the dominant personality within Sid. He thought that just like Sid, Grimes also craved attention. Carter realized that Sid was now free of any restraints. He was evolving, adapting, and growing stronger inside the mall. Meanwhile, Sid was thrilled to see the news coverage of his chaos on television. Barnes noticed this obsession and figured out Sid's next move. Sid's hunger for attention led him to the Olympic Auditorium, where a big fight was being screened live. He arrived at the venue and started a brutal fight, drawing the crowd's attention. At the peak of the chaos, Sid lunged at a woman, attempting to bite her. A security guard quickly intervened, firing a shotgun at him. The shot missed its mark, and Sid fled into the crowd. Barnes arrived just in time to witness the commotion and chased after Sid, who leaped into the boxing ring, grinning wildly. The chase continued down to the metro station. Sid, being ever resourceful, used the broken glass from a train window to repair his injured hand. As the train pulled away, Barnes caught sight of Sid holding a hostage. Sid taunted Barnes, daring him to take a shot, but warned him that this wasn't a virtual reality game anymore. Barnes fired but missed, and the hostage collapsed. Sid escaped as the train sped off. The police arrived at the scene, and Barnes tried to explain that he was a cop. But the crowd believed he had shot the hostage in cold blood. The authorities didn't waste any time. Barnes was arrested. As he was being led away, he pleaded with Carter, insisting that he hadn't killed the hostage. Carter examined the body and confirmed that the victim had been shot from behind, which meant Barnes couldn't have been the shooter. But now the only man capable of stopping Sid was being locked away. As Barnes sat in the prison van, Sid ambushed it. With a sinister grin, he taunted Barnes, bringing up painful memories of how he had lost his own family. Sid revealed that the locator implanted in Barnes's brain contained a deadly poison that could be activated at any time. He smirked and questioned how long it would take before the authorities decided to execute him. As two prison guards lay lifeless nearby, Barnes saw his opportunity. He grabbed one of their guns and sprinted toward the city, determined to stop Sid once and for all. Billy, a fellow officer, received the news of Barnes's escape. Meanwhile, Dean asked Wallace if the failsafe was still active. Barnes called Carter, desperately trying to clear his name. He explained that Sid only enjoyed the game when he had a worthy opponent, and that opponent was him. Carter, already suspicious of the system, knew about the poison implanted in Barnes and wanted to help, but she needed to know his location. Barnes gave a cryptic reply, saying he was with his family. Carter immediately contacted Billy and convinced him to believe in Barnes. As she left home, she waved goodbye to her young daughter, unaware that Sid was lurking nearby in a van, waiting for his next move. Meanwhile, Wallace tracked Barnes to a cemetery and authorized his execution. Just as the kill switch was about to be activated, Billy intervened, smashing the computer and preventing the command from going through. Carter met Barnes shortly afterward, and he deduced Sid's next target: a televised debate about immigration, which was attracting a massive audience. True to Barnes's instincts, Sid had already infiltrated the TV station. He murdered the technicians and took over the broadcast, shocking millions of viewers. He addressed his audience like a twisted showman, reveling in the attention. Then, he revealed his first victim, Carter's 9-year-old daughter. Barnes assured Carter that he would save her daughter but needed her help first. He instructed her to cut the phone lines to the building. As Barnes made his way inside, armed police officers opened fire on him. He narrowly escaped, determined to put an end to Sid's rampage. Inside the station, Carter confronted Daryl at gunpoint, demanding to know where her daughter was. Daryl pretended not to know, but Carter wasn't fooled. She struck him with her gun, forcing him to cooperate. Meanwhile, Sid continued his performance, but the moment the phone lines were cut, he lost control. Enraged, he went on a rampage just as Barnes arrived and opened fire on him. The two adversaries clashed, their fight spilling onto the rooftop. As they battled, a helicopter arrived and fired at Barnes. The rooftop fight intensified as Barnes relentlessly pursued Sid, demanding to know where Carter's daughter was. The battle took them crashing through a window, where Sid was impaled by shattered glass. But Sid was far from finished. As Barnes stood over him, demanding answers, Sid grabbed him and began regenerating his body. Barnes, realizing he had to act fast, delivered a final blow, punching through Sid's head and yanking out the software module that powered him. Sid collapsed, motionless. Carter and Daryl arrived. But just as they thought it was over, Barnes made a shocking revelation. Without Sid, they might never find Carter's daughter. Then, something strange happened. The scene rewound. Barnes and Sid were once again fighting on the rooftop. But this time, Sid gained the upper hand, throwing Barnes off the edge. Barnes crashed to the ground, lying in a pool of blood. Carter, horrified, demanded to know where her daughter was. Sid grinned and led her away. Suddenly, the blood disappeared. Barnes got up. He wasn't dead. He was inside a simulation, being watched by Billy and Daryl. It was a trick. Sid had no idea he was inside a controlled virtual environment. They watched as Sid continued his taunts, unknowingly revealing crucial information about Carter's daughter's location. When Barnes approached him again, Sid began to realize the deception. He screamed for Daryl's help, but before anything could be done, Carter regained consciousness and shot Daryl, setting Barnes free. Wallace stormed in, demanding answers, but Barnes knocked him unconscious. With the simulation now useless, Barnes and Carter rushed to find her daughter. When they reached the location, Barnes realized something. Sid had booby-trapped the entire place. Carter was about to open the hatch where her daughter was supposedly held, but Barnes stopped her. Using his mechanical arm, he held back the fan blades and climbed in through the top. A pre-recorded message from Sid played, taunting Barnes that every move he made had already been anticipated. But Barnes wasn't one to give up easily. Navigating through the deadly traps, he managed to reach the bomb that was set to kill Carter's daughter. Just as he attempted to disable it, the timer sped up. Thinking quickly, Barnes used the connections in his mechanical arm to interfere with the bomb system, forcing it into a time loop, neutralizing the threat. With seconds to spare, Barnes rescued the little girl and climbed out of the hatch. Carter, overwhelmed with relief, thanked him. Barnes, knowing he had to ensure Sid would never return, climbed to the rooftop one last time. With one swift motion, he hurled Sid's software module onto the street below, watching as it shattered into irreparable pieces. Sid was finally gone. And for your entertainment to not be gone, I recommend clicking on the videos on the right next. Drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this story and want to return for future uploads. Grab your popcorn, enjoy yourself, and see you soon, my friend.